Erik ten Hag, Bayern Munich bombshell. INEOS reportedly want 2 players from Benfica this summer, and Mason Greenwood attracting interest from Premier League clubs. These are some of the stories we will be discussing on this morning's live edition of Daily Red Devil. But before we get into that, please do me a small favour. Let's try and see 200 likes on this morning's show, and subscribe to the channel if you're new. So let's start with Mason Greenwood, shall we? Because I know a lot of people in the fan base are really, really interested to see what will happen with Mason. So James Ducker from The Telegraph, very, very reliable journalist around Manchester United. I would say he's a tier 1 journalist for Manchester United news. He's really, really good. And he is reporting this morning that apparently at least 2 Premier League clubs have inquired about signing Mason Greenwood this summer. Now, that's going to really, really cause some controversy, because most people who don't want Mason Greenwood back seem to say that he won't be able to come and play in England again. The fan pressure will be too bad. The harassment in the grounds, the media, and all the rest of it. And I'll be honest, I'm kind of in that camp. I think that obviously what's happened. But for Mason Greenwood, for his family, for his child, like, him coming back to England, in my opinion, would be incredibly difficult. We know how horrible the media can be in the UK. We know, they hound people, they follow them everywhere. And if I was him, I'm living the dream out in Madrid, Getafe, playing for Getafe in Madrid, had a really good season, just been nominated for the team of the season in La Liga, living in the Spanish sun, in a villa, beautiful. Coming back to not really even bothered by the press. The media don't even seem to bother him over there because, he's not on the level of a Real Madrid player, is he? Does that make sense? Like, he's not a superstar in La Liga. He isn't. He's a superstar to Manchester United fans. But in La Liga, Mason Greenwood isn't a superstar. There's Vinny, there's Bellingham, there's so many players who are above his level. And he's playing for a smaller team. He's playing for Getafe, whose aspirations are to finish mid-table each season. That's kind of where they expect to be. So there's no pressure, there's no expectation. To say that he'd then come back to the Premier League, where immediately every time he goes to the shop, they'll be putting up a news article saying what he bought in the shop. You can already see it. Mason Greenwood goes and buys a Kit Kat, and it'll be headline news, and it'll be spun into this, a footballer shouldn't be buying a Kit Kat. He shouldn't be out of his house. Why is he not training? Why is he not work? You know what the media are like in England. They hound people. We've been known for it for years and years and years and years. But the fact that Premier League clubs have inquired is really, really interesting. Now, at this stage, we don't know whether that's for a loan or for a permanent transfer. I imagine it will probably be a loan move. Man United apparently, though, have said that their number 1 priority this summer, is to sell Mason Greenwood. It says Manchester United staff were released... let me start again. Manchester United staff were recently told in a club briefing that selling Mason Greenwood is their number 1 priority this summer. So the stance from Manchester United is clear. Manchester United do not want Mason Greenwood to return to the club, But there is lots of interest. Getafe are desperate to keep him. Atletico Madrid, Barcelona, Juventus, and now apparently 2 Premier League clubs as well. And I think Man United have to sell him, really. I think loaning him is just a big mistake. I think there's a player there who has value. There's a player there who we should be able to get, I think, £40 million for. But I want you guys to let me know what you think. Do you think Mason Greenwood should come back to Manchester United? If you don't think he should, where do you think he'll end up? Let me know your thoughts. And for anybody who's watching the video live, there is a poll to get involved in. If you don't want any of the managers who I've listed, those are the current favourites. So I've just put the top 4 favourites, right? If you don't want any of them, get in the comment section and let me know who your preferred manager would be if Erik ten Hag is sacked. Anybody who's watching it back on repeat thinking, what the hell is this guy talking about? There's a poll running in the live show. So if you are watching this for the first time, make sure you subscribe and get involved in the live shows, live every day at 11 and 6 p.m. And the question I have for you is, emphasize the word if Erik ten Hag was sacked, who would be your number 1 target? And the 4 top targets, this is based on the bookies. This is based on who we've been linked to. This isn't my 4 top targets. This is based on what we're being told, Gareth Southgate, Roberto De Zerbi, Graham Potter, and Thomas Tuchel. Those are the top 4 options. So let me know. My stance, I don't want any of them. I don't think any of them are any better than Erik ten Hag, personally. I genuinely don't. I think Zinedine Zidane might be better. Emphasise the word might. He might come in and not succeed I think Carlo Ancelotti is better, but he's not going to come to Manchester United because he's at Real Madrid. I think Unai Emery is probably better, but he's just committed himself to Aston Villa and rejected Bayern Munich. There are better managers in world football than Erik ten Hag, but they're not available. So it's not like we're sat here and you've got Unai Emery, Zinedine Zidane, Carlo Ancelotti, Hansi Flick, Nagelsmann, all desperate for the job, all doing interviews, all saying, please pick me, pick me. None of those people want the job. None of them. They're all happy at their current clubs or aren't interested in managing Manchester United. So those are the 4 options we have. And I'll be honest with you guys, those 4 options make me feel a little bit worried, sick, concerned. The list goes on and on and on and on. So obviously, if you don't want any of them, get in the comment section and let me know what your preferred option is. My preferred option is Erik ten Hag to remain. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. So yeah, we've talked about Mason Greenwood. Let's move on to the next topic of the show. And that is about the manager. So we'll talk about this really, really quickly. So the headline this morning is that face-to-face conversations between the Manchester United squad and Sir Dave Brailsford have centred on changing the club's culture, leading players to assume that Erik ten Hag is no longer part of Sir Jim Ratcliffe's plans. So I mean, these players should not be part of Sir Jim Ratcliffe's plans. Those are the conversations I'd be having. After that game against Crystal Palace, I'd be marching them all into my office if I was Jim Ratcliffe or Sir Dave Brailsford, and I'd be saying, do you think this is acceptable? Do you think you're good enough to play for Manchester United? And the answer probably would be no, and then you sell them in the summer. Like, the season is effectively over. The players have already down tools, you know? We're fighting for 5th or 6th place. I don't think many fans want the Europa Conference League, to be honest. Like, I don't want the Europa Conference League. I honestly think that having more time on the training pitch would be better than playing in the Conference League. Not because I don't think the Conference League is a good competition. Fair play to West Ham for winning it last year. I just don't think it's what we need at this point, like, being completely honest. I think Europa is a little bit more prestigious. I think it's a little bit more something you actually want and is a bit more desirable and is worth getting involved in. But I mean, if you look at some of the like Europa Conference League group stages, right? Let's have a look at the conference group stages. Some of the teams that you have to go and play, like, you could be flying anywhere around Europe, like, to, 3-4 hours on a Thursday night, having to then come back and play the Premier League. Like, honestly, I'm going through the teams now. Some people might say that this is my lack of football knowledge, maybe, but I'm looking at the group stage teams in the Europa Conference League, and I genuinely only know about 1 or 2 teams in each group. Like, I don't know. I just think it will be so easy for Manchester United that it's not really worth it, personally. I think it would be better to have more time on the training pitch. But I still want them to get 5th or 6th. I think we need to be aiming for Europa League football. With Manchester United, we need to be in a European competition. I just don't think that the Conference League is the competition we should be in. But obviously, it's not up to me. It's up to those players to prove themselves. If we don't deserve to be in if we deserve to be in the Conference League, we deserve to be in the Conference League. It's as simple as that. I personally don't think we deserve any European football next season. I think the teams below us at the moment have actually been better, genuinely. I know people will say, oh, well, look at the points total. I think Bournemouth have been better than us. Brighton have been better than us. Crystal Palace have been better than us. Like, quite a lot of those teams below us at the moment, I genuinely think have played better football and had a better season than us. But obviously, football is quite cruel sometimes. There's a few games this season where we probably shouldn't have won. The Wolves game, the first game of the season, that should have been a penalty. Like, I know it goes both ways, but the point I'm trying to make here is we don't have this divine right as Manchester United to be playing in the Champions League. It depends on how your team performed that season. And our team, with this current set of players, have not performed the level of a team deserving of any European football, really. And I think if we were to get European football now, it would be a miracle. I genuinely think that. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Let's see what people are saying today. If you are watching for the first time, by the way, please make sure to smash a like on the video and subscribe. Let's try and see 200 likes on today's show. I will read out some of your comments in a little bit as well. Let's move over to the story about the Benfica duo then. Now, these are 2 players that we've spoke about on the show quite extensively, actually. And the story this morning is coming out from Fabrizio Romano via the Court Offside podcast, which is quite a good podcast if you've not heard it before. And apparently Manchester United are interested in signing 2 players from Benfica this summer. The first one, Antonio Silva, centre-back. Very, very good player. He would be my number 1 target, I think, in the centre-back position. The only issue with him is his release clause. 100 million euros, which is crazy, absolutely crazy. But we know that Benfica have been renowned for getting crazy money for players. João Felix, Darwin Núñez, Enzo Fernandez. Like, the list goes on and on and on and on of players that Benfica have sold for crazy amounts of money. So £85 million or 100 million euros is what it will cost Manchester United to get Antonio Silva from Benfica. Now, there is always a chance that Man United go in and offer under the release clause, you know? Just because he has a release clause, it doesn't necessarily mean that we have to pay it. The release clause effectively means if we pay it, then Benfica can't do anything about it. You do sometimes negotiate under release clause. I think 85 million is a bit ridiculous for Antonio Silva. I think somewhere around 60 is probably more realistic based on what else is available on the market. 20 years of age, in the Portuguese first team, played 49 times for Benfica this season across all competitions. That's crazy, isn't it? So yeah, very, very good player. Somebody I would definitely look at signing. He would be your centre-back for the next 10 years. I think he's a quality addition. Moving on to the second player that apparently Man United are looking to sign this summer. Another player we've spoke about at length on this channel. Can anybody guess who it is? Anyone? No? Okay. Obviously, we know that Alvaro Fernandez is going to move to Benfica. That's been pretty much confirmed by Fabrizio Romano. They're going to trigger his release clause. And hopefully, that allows us to go and sign João Neves. That's the other player that we're apparently trying to sign this summer. João Neves and Antonio Silva, both around the age of 20. João Neves is only 19 years of age. Ruben Neves. Antonio Silva is 20. João Neves is 19. So both very, very young, both very, very talented. Both, in my opinion, two players who could be world class in the next kind of 2 or 3 years. I think they're both very, very special talents. But they're going to cost you a lot of money. That's the problem. João Neves also has a release clause. 120 million euros. So even more than Antonio Silva. Around 100 million pounds. It's a lot of money. I think it's maybe a little bit too much money for this window, personally. But you never know what's going to happen. I said this to you guys on the show yesterday. We should be looking to sell or remove 15 players this summer. Easy. And that's not even bringing in that's not even bringing in any of the kind of controversial ones like the Rashfords, the Brunos, the Maguires. Like, there is about 6 or 7 players this summer who are going to be leaving as free agents. Martial, Varane, Johnny Evans, Tom Heaton, Omari Forson. There's a couple of others I can't remember off the top of my head. Then you've got people like Donny van de Beek, Jadon Sancho. You've got Eriksen. You've got Casemiro. You've got Wan-Bissaka. You've got Lindelof. Do you see where I'm going with this? Like, there are so many players there that most of this fan base, if not all of this fan base, are expecting to be removed from the club this summer, you know? And that's not even bringing into conversation the Rashfords, the Amad Diallos, the Antonys, you know, Maguire, McTominay. Like, there's so many people with question marks around them. I know we need a squad. I know it's not realistic to sell like 300 million pounds worth of players in one window. Like, that's not going to happen. But we still have to have expectations from INEOS, you know? They are in this honeymoon period where, at the moment, they've kind of had the benefit of the doubt. But we do need to see something special this summer. That's my opinion anyway. Sung Lee says, I think we should keep Alvaro Fernandez. We need a left-back. Apparently, Benfica have already triggered the release clause, £5 million apparently. So I don't think Alvaro Fernandez will be coming back, unfortunately, for those of you who want him to return. Right, let's move over to the manager really, really quickly, and let's talk about this Erik ten Hag bombshell. So the headline last night this was, coming out from Christian Falk, very reliable journalist over in Germany. He is reporting that Erik ten Hag will not become the new Manchester United manager. He says that Bayern Munich will no longer pursue a move for the Dutchman. He says that apparently Hansi Flick is now the number one target. So Erik ten Hag to Bayern Munich, not happening. 100%. This has been confirmed by a very, very reliable source. And Bayern Munich are now looking at alternative targets, i.e. Hansi Flick. So what does this mean for Ten Hag? I mean, if he was to be sacked, I guess he would go back to Ajax. Maybe he'd wait for a bit and wait for another job to come. It's really difficult to predict what's going to happen. Like, The one thing I do know, and the one thing that's been widely reported, is that Manchester United are not going to remove Erik ten Hag before the FA Cup final, which I think is the correct decision. I think sacking him now would be pointless. Like, yeah, I think it would be pointless. I mean, some people would say, oh, well, you know, what if we then go and win the FA Cup with an interim manager? Maybe. But the likelihood is then Man United would probably give the interim manager the job. And there'd be like a similar situation to Ollie where we win a few games, he gets the job, and then a year later we're in the same situation. Like, if we're going to get a new manager, which I personally think we shouldn't, it needs to be very, very well thought out. And when you look at the options that I've got in the poll at the moment, right? The 4 options that are available, Southgate, De Zerbi, Graham Potter, and Thomas Tuchel, like, how many of you genuinely actually want any of those people? Well, based on the poll this morning, 46% of you want Roberto De Zerbi if Ten Hag is sacked, and 43% of you want Thomas Tuchel. I mean, they're both good managers. I'm just not convinced that they're much better than what we have already. That's my kind of concern with them. The other option as well that apparently has been thrown into the mix this morning is Ruben Amorim from Sporting Lisbon. I mean, the fact that Liverpool didn't want him, the fact that he went for an interview at West Ham and West Ham have gone with another manager, I don't know. I think Ruben Amorim is a massive risk. I think he's a much bigger risk than what Erik ten Hag was when we signed him, and some people would think Erik ten Hag's been a flop. So I think Ruben Amorim for me is a definite no. Thomas Tuchel, Premier League experience. I don't want him, but I can understand why we're linked to him. Roberto De Zerbi, done great things at Brighton, Premier League experience. I can understand why we're linked to him. But, you know, I mean, even Gareth Southgate, his only Premier League experience is relegating Middlesbrough. Like, that's why I just don't understand that link. I can understand Graham Potter, Roberto De Zerbi, and Thomas Tuchel. I don't want any of them, but I can understand why they're linked to United. They've managed in the Premier League before. You know, Graham Potter did well at Brighton. Roberto De Zerbi's done well at Brighton, and Thomas Tuchel obviously did well at Chelsea. So I understand why we're linked to those types of managers. But Gareth Southgate, like, really? It doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever, other than that, you know, he's worked with Dan Ashworth, and INEOS apparently really like him. That's the kind of, you know. Somebody in the chat says, what about Antonio Conte? Why are we not linked to him? I think Antonio Conte for me is kind of in a similar vein of Jose Mourinho. He was almost a manager of the past, and I think that style of football's kind of died. You know, it's very pragmatic, it's very defensive, it's very not exciting, it's very not the Manchester United way. Like, Manchester United want to play fast, attacking football. And I think that, you know, Conte and Mourinho, they get the results, but I think that style of football is kind of dying personally. And that's why, you know, none of the top clubs are interested in them. But that's just my opinion. Maybe I'm wrong. Let me know what you guys think. You know, is Antonio Conte a genuine option? But keeping on the topics of managers, there's a journalist from Spain last night who is renowned for putting out absolutely terrible stories. His name's Santi Awona, Santi JFM on Twitter. He's got a massive following, but I don't know why. He is literally, like, I would say one of the worst journalists in the world by way of reliability, but he has a huge following. Some people take what he says as truth, but he came out last night saying that apparently Gareth Southgate is the number one target. I mean, what I will say is this, right? If Gareth Southgate wins the Euros, I think, and we don't have a new manager by then, and Erik ten Hag has been sacked and we're looking for a manager, I can see why he would be an option. I still wouldn't want him, but I can see why we'd be linked to him. But so far for England, Gareth Southgate's not really achieved anything. He's won nothing. I know he's brought back a good vibe and everyone's smiling and everyone enjoys looking forward to going and playing football. But if we want to do that, you may as well bring back Ollie. Like, Ollie's achieved more in his career than Gareth Southgate. I genuinely would rather have Ollie come back than Gareth Southgate. I'm not even joking. I would rather Ollie was there with a proper coaching staff, with proper recruitment, and I think he would do better. Red Sun says, your logic is flawed. You cannot say that Erik ten Hag is better than the others based on the evidence that we see week in, week out. So, did Erik ten Hag get third last year and win our first trophy in 6 years? When did Graham Potter finish third and win a trophy? When did Roberto De Zerbi finish third and win a trophy? Let me know. I don't remember that happening. Did Graham Potter win 4 back-to-back Eredivises? Or did Roberto De Zerbi? Based on the last 10 years, Erik ten Hag is a better manager than De Zerbi and Graham Potter. You're basing this off 3 to 6 months of his career where at most points he's had 10 or more first-team players injured. We don't have a defence. We have a defence of a Casemiro at the age of 32, Johnny Evans, who's a sixth-choice centre-back, who was released by a championship club last season, who we signed as a free agent. You've got Aaron Wan-Bissaka at left-back, who's never played left-back in his career, and Diogo Dalot at right-back, who barely got a sniff before Erik ten Hag came in. That's our defence, you know? I just don't understand how people can think that Erik ten Hag is suddenly a terrible manager after one night. After one season. Like, how is that possible? How? Red Sun says, you say he's better than the others. No, I said he's better than Gareth Southgate, Roberto De Zerbi, and Graham Potter, because I genuinely believe that. Is he better than Thomas Tuchel? I think he's better in some ways than Thomas Tuchel. Thomas Tuchel has achieved more in his career, but what I don't like about Thomas Tuchel is this. Thomas Tuchel was not known for developing youth. That's what Manchester United have been built on over the last 100 years, developing youth. Thomas Tuchel is terrible with the youth, whereas Erik ten Hag is renowned for getting things out of the youth. Kobbie Mainoo. How many of you had heard of Kobbie Mainoo before Erik ten Hag came in? Probably none of you. How many of you thought that Garnacho would be playing, all the time? Like, he has done well with the youth, Erik ten Hag, and he did well at Ajax and all of his other clubs. Thomas Tuchel doesn't do youth. He's like a Mourinho. He brings in the big names. I don't like that about him, okay? I also don't like with Thomas Tuchel that he falls out with the clubs. He fell out with Chelsea. He's fallen out with Bayern Munich. Like, he's renowned for falling out with the clubs and the hierarchy and being extremely difficult to work with. And I think that when INEOS come in, which they are now, and they want to have all of this power and they want to effectively have a coach, I don't think Thomas Tuchel will work as that because he's outspoken, he falls out with people, and I don't like that about him. And that's why I don't want him. Has he achieved more in his career? Yes, I think he has. He's achieved more than Erik ten Hag in his managerial career. But based on what Manchester United have been built on, based on our history, our legacy, our values, I think that Erik ten Hag is a better suit as a personality, as developing youth, as not falling out with the club and all the rest of it than Thomas Tuchel is. Thomas Tuchel will come in, probably get us 4th or 5th, and then I reckon he'll probably leave within 2 years because he'll fall out with the club. That's what happens at every club he goes to. Just look back at his record, Look back at his managerial record over the last however many years. It's happened at every single club. Bayern Munich. He was appointed last year. Bayern Munich, okay? We're a bigger club than Bayern Munich. He was appointed there in March last year. And he's already been sacked, effectively. They've already told him he's gone. Chelsea. He joined in 2021. Less than 18 months later, in September 2022, he was sacked. Paris Saint-Germain. Joined them in 2018. 2 years later, he's sacked. 2020. Falling out with the manager, falling out with the club, falling out with the players. Borussia Dortmund. He joined them in 2015. 2 years later, he left. Like, the last 4 clubs that Thomas Tuchel has been at, Bayern Munich 1 season, Chelsea 1 season, Paris Saint-Germain 2 seasons, and Borussia Dortmund 2 seasons. We need somebody for the next 10 years. We need the next Jurgen Klopp, the next Pep Guardiola, somebody who's going to stick with us, somebody who's going to build with us. I don't think that's Thomas Tuchel for me, and that's why I don't want him. Like, it just simply isn't. Is he a better manager than Erik ten Hag? Maybe. But yeah. But anyway, I'm going to wrap the video up here, guys. I hope everyone has a lovely day. I will be back at 6 p.m. If you have enjoyed today's show, please leave a like, comment, subscribe. I hope you're enjoying the live videos again. I will keep doing these. If people want the live videos, I will do them. Let's try and see 200 likes on today's video. I want to see that you guys are wanting the live videos. So if you want the live videos, keep supporting the channel, smash a like, and I'll speak to you a bit later.